Today, I'm going to give you the 11 things that I wish I knew when I started using Lovable. Let's get into it. All right, so number one, we have to nail our opening prompt. Our first prompt is the most important part of the entire build. If we can nail our opening prompt, we're going to have a strong foundation for a smooth build. So we have to nail that first prompt. So how do we do this? Well, after building probably 50 different apps and sites in Lovable, I think the best formula to get started on the right foot in your build is to break your first prompt down into 3 different sections. Firstly, start with an overview sentence on what you're building. Okay, we want to give Lovable some context, some guardrails of what we're going to build so that it kind of has its first knowledge of where we're going. Secondly, once we've given that overview context, we want to actually get into the detail of the functionality that we'll need in our app. So for example, if we're building a SaaS app, we want to collect payments from Stripe, we want to have login and sign-up flows, and we're building some sort of, expense tracking app, and we'll need to be tracking expenses. And we'll go through an example here in just a second. So break down the actual functionality that we'll need in our build. And then lastly, close with style details. So what do we want our site, what do we want our app to look like aesthetically, okay? And once we combine all 3 of these different parameters into our opening prompt, I have found that Lovable will get us started on the right foot, okay? So let's look at an example. So this is a prompt I actually used last week to build a habit tracking app. This got me pretty far along in my build, probably 70% of the way there from just one prompt, okay? And so here's what I did. I'm building a habit tracking SaaS that has login and sign up functionality, and that costs $10 a month. That's it. That's the overview, okay? What are we building? I'm building a habit tracking SaaS app. That's it, okay? Now Lovable knows where we're going. The next 2 paragraphs, I broke down the exact functionality that I needed inside of my app, okay? So on the dashboard, I want my main view to be a heat map that looks like the attached picture. What I want to be able to do is create different habits and be able to easily mark each habit as completed or done. Make sure that when I complete a habit each day, that the cell in the heat map changes colors, and I want it to be very fun to complete a habit, etc., etc. So in those paragraphs, in the middle chunk of my opening prompt, I add meat onto the bone. I tell Lovable what exactly we need functionally in my app, okay? So now it knows kind of what to build, okay? Lastly, I close with style. The landing page should be very simple and clean, like a SaaS landing page. I prefer whites and soft colors that make the site very clean and modern. Now Lovable has all the pieces of the puzzle it needs to get our app started on a good first step. All right, the second thing that I wish I knew when I started building in Lovable is to use screenshots, use example images when you're creating your prompts. Okay, the more images and examples that we can feed into Lovable, the better it's gonna do. I can't tell you how many builds I've been in where I am about to pull my hair out with Lovable because it's just not understanding what I want it to build. I'll spend 60 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, fighting with Lovable over like one piece of functionality, and it can't understand what I'm saying. And then I go online and I find one example of what I'm trying to build, and I feed a screenshot of it into Lovable, and it does it instantly. It's like magic. Remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture is going to be able to convey way more accurately to Lovable what you want than any prompt I could ever come up with using just simple words. A picture is magic. Use them more often. Now, that leads me to number 3. If I do my first prompt, my very first prompt of the build, and I attach screenshots and images and all that good stuff, and Lovable chugs and creates some sort of first view of my site or app, and I don't like it, or it is way off base, it's way off the mark, just restart entirely your build, okay? If Lovable doesn't get your first build right, just restart. In my experience, the first build almost anchors Lovable. It sets its foundation for the app. And if your prompt wasn't good enough, or it just didn't understand what you wanted well enough, and it gave you something that isn't kind of what you're looking for, just delete the project, go refine your prompt, open a new project, and try again. If Lovable can get the first prompt, you're smooth sailing the rest of the build. Now here's an example of this. I was building a tourism site that essentially let you build different itineraries around the country, and I started to build this web app with a prompt that I thought was good, and Lovable chugged along for 2 or 3 minutes and gave me my first view of the app, and it was just not good. Like, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. The style was gross. It didn't have the functionality I wanted. It didn't understand really what I needed. And I was just like, this isn't good. So instead of wrestling with that idea, I just deleted it, rewired my prompt, and did it again. And the second time, it was perfect, and the build went very smoothly. So have no shame in completely restarting a build if your first output isn't good. Because I'm telling you, that first output, that first prompt, that anchors the rest of your build. Okay, now let's move on to number 4. Let's say Lovable, you have a great first prompt, you attach screenshots and images, and your first output is amazing. It looks great. You really like the way it looks. Well, now you're in good shape. Okay, so your first prompt is out of the way. You're probably 75 to 80% done with your build in one prompt. Okay. Now, my recommendation is your second prompt should not be to build out the functionality of your site. So let's say you're building a tourism site. It shouldn't be to build out like an itinerary app. It should be to set up authorization immediately. So connect to Supabase and set up login, sign up functionality. Okay, so set up authorization. And B, if you're going to charge members and connect to Stripe to charge a monthly fee to use your app, do that now. Okay, so your second prompt and third prompt should be A, to set up auth, and B, to set up your Stripe integration. Now, why is this? Why am I saying this? Well, in my experience, Lovable is much better at setting up the foundational pieces of a build, like auth, payment processing, all that stuff, all those workflows, onboarding workflows, early in the project as opposed to at the end of the project. I don't know why this is, but it seems to be true. My first few builds, I would build the actual core functionality of the app. So let's say I was building a habit tracking app. I would build the habit tracker first and get that all working. And then at the end, I would go set up my login and sign up pages. I'd connect authorization through Supabase, and then I would integrate with Stripe. Okay. It's a hassle. It's a hassle doing this at the end of the project. You guys just got to trust me. I don't know why it is. It seems like the more complex the app gets, the harder Lovable finds it to then integrate big pieces of functionality at the end of the build. So get these huge building blocks done up front in your second, third, and fourth prompt. And then once that is done, then turn and build the rest of your app. Okay. That's a huge piece of advice. It's going to save you a ton of time. All right. Now that leads me to number 5. Never give your Stripe key to Lovable. Never. Okay. So a lot of talk online lately about security issues with Lovable and all that kind of good stuff. We need to be careful of how we're building in Lovable. Okay. We don't want any hackers to get access to our sensitive information. So what we need to do is, if you're ever connecting to Stripe, Lovable will ask you, it'll say, hey, now, if you want me to integrate with Stripe, go get me your Stripe API key and give it to me. Don't do that. Just be mean with it. Just be stern and say, I'm not giving you that. I'm not giving you my Stripe API key. I need you, here's what you tell it. I need you to go set up a secret in Supabase, my Supabase Edge function. Go set up a secret where I can put my Stripe API key inside of a variable. And it'll do it for you. It'll say, okay, no problem. And it'll go into Supabase and it will create a secret variable for you. And it'll probably be called Stripe API key. It'll probably look just like this. And that is where you will copy and paste your Stripe API key into. Okay. You never want to actually put your Stripe API key or any other API key into the Lovable chat window by itself. Okay. You don't want to do that. Always ask Lovable to create a variable, a secret variable for you where you can store that confidentially. Okay. The reason you do this is because hackers can easily find your API key if Lovable accidentally includes your Stripe key in the front end of your site. Okay. You don't want to do that. You want to hide it inside of Supabase. So that is a very, very important tip that is going to save you guys a lot of headache and issues down the road. All right, so we're chugging along in this video right now, but I wanted to stop in real quickly and just let you know that if you are using Lovable to build an app or a website and you need help, you just can't get something working, or you just need us to handle the entire build, please reach out to us at memberify.io down below. We'll have it linked down in the description below. And we would love to help build your project for you. So get down there, let us know you need help, and we'll be in touch. All right, let's get back to the video. All right, now number 6, use the revert button often. Okay. The revert button, I think, is one of Lovable's best features. And what the revert button lets you do is essentially at any point revert back to a previous version of a build that you liked. Okay, so for example, if I'm building a habit tracking app and I'm 100 prompts in and everything's working great and I really, really like where I'm at and I'm getting very close to being done, I'm going to just make a note like, okay, I'm on code edit number 100. Okay, if I ever mess something up down the line, I'm going to come back to my edit number 100 and I'm going to revert back to this when everything was working. Okay, so I almost use these edits or these reverts as checkpoints. Okay, so in my head, it's like playing Mario Kart. Okay, if I get far enough in the course and I fall off, well, I just respawn midway through the course. You know what I mean? I'm like through the most difficult part. It's the same thing with Lovable. So you could build fearlessly in Lovable and not worry about messing up your whole app. Okay, you'll never have that issue because you always have that revert button. So if you're almost 95% of the way done with your habit tracking app and then you make a change that breaks the entire app and everything looks horrible and Lovable did stuff that you didn't want it to do, take a deep breath, don't worry about it. Go back to your last successful edit and just revert and you'll be totally fine. Okay, so build and prompt fearlessly in Lovable, knowing that you have that insurance policy in place. Okay, now number 7, as you're building, mid-build, never tell Lovable to do more than 3 things at a time. Okay, now how Lovable works is you're going to be paying per prompt. Okay, so you're on a monthly plan. I'm paying, I think, $100 a month for, I think it's 500 prompts a month I get. So I'm paying for every prompt that I use. And because of that, I'm incentivized to cram as many different instructions as I can into one prompt. You have to fight the urge to do this. You should not do this because Lovable does not handle this well. I don't know if they've purposely built it like this so that they can just maximize their revenue, or it's just an actual limitation on the AI. But the more instructions you give it in one prompt, the worse Lovable is going to do, and the higher the chance that you're going to break some other aspect of your site. Okay, so I have a general rule of thumb where if you are making CSS or front end style changes, basic changes, or copy, stuff like that on the front of your site, you can tell Lovable to do 3 things at a time. So for example, please make my contact us button purple instead of green. That's 1. Also, get rid of those icons on the features card. 2. Finally, add a box shadow to my images. 3. Lovable will handle that just fine. Okay, but if you start telling it to do 3 style changes and then you also add in and also do this advanced functionality edit, it's not going to do well. Okay, it is just not going to do well. So rule of thumb is 3 requests per prompt for style front end changes and just 1 request or instruction for more complex functionality prompts. Okay, this way you'll have a much smoother build. You won't accidentally delete or change or break things that you didn't intend to, and your build just progresses very nicely. Okay, so follow that general rule of thumb and it'll save you a lot of time. Now, number 8, another tip that I wish I knew is that sometimes in these Lovable builds, you will be asking Lovable to change something or update something, and it's not doing it. Like, you don't see any changes on the screen, but it's telling you it's changing stuff. And you're going, what the heck's going on here, Lovable? Like, are you dumb? Most of the time what is happening is Lovable thinks you are talking about a different element somewhere else on your site. Okay? So for example, can you change these feature cards to have a box shadow? And then it runs and you don't see any box shadow behind your 3 feature cards on your site. But Lovable says, all right, I've updated this. It's probably thinking that you're telling it about feature cards somewhere else on the site, or it thinks that those feature cards are called something else. So it doesn't know to update the cards you're talking about. So what you need to do is a couple things. 1, you can ask Lovable what it is referring to or naming each element. You can go, hey, these feature cards on my features page in the 3rd section, what are you calling those cards? Because you're not changing them when I ask you to change my feature cards. And it'll say, oh, I'm not calling those my feature cards. I'm calling those my, I don't know, service productivity cards or something. It'll have some name that it gave it. You go, oh, okay. Well, firstly, can we in the future refer to those as just my feature cards? Because that's what I mean. I'm referring to those 3 cards when I say feature cards. And then from that moment on, it'll know, oh, okay, when you ask to update the feature cards, those are the cards you're talking about, not some other cards on other parts of the site. So you can do that. The other thing you can do is if it still is not getting it, is you can inspect the web page of your live build and actually give it the ID of the section or the cards that you want it to update. And go, hey, look, when I say feature cards, these are the cards I'm talking about, and then paste in the ID or the class of the cards that you're talking about, and then it will know. Okay. So a lot of the times you'll just be on a different page than Lovable, or Lovable will be on a different page than you. You need to make sure that you're speaking the same language with Lovable and that you are referring to items in the same way that it is. Otherwise, it will just be miscommunication. Just like if I'm speaking English and somebody's speaking French and we're calling things different stuff, it's going to be impossible to communicate. Make sure you're speaking on the same terms by aligning on the names that you're calling things. Okay? Now, number 9. One of the most frustrating parts I have found in using Lovable is getting images live on your site. Okay, I don't know what it is. I just don't think it's very good at it yet. But when you, for example, paste in an image and say, "Hey, use this picture on my About Us page," and it's a picture of you and like your family, like on your website. A lot of the times, Lovable just won't. Like the image will break. It won't work. And you'll just get an error image and it won't show up. And you're like, no, use this image, and it still doesn't work. It's very frustrating. And I don't actually know why this is happening. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not setting something up right. But it seems like it has trouble referencing sometimes images that you upload. So there's a couple things you could do. The thing that I recommend most is to go to Unsplash. If you're just using like generic stock photos, go to Unsplash, find a picture that you like that you want to include on your site. Right-click it, copy image address, and then say, hey, Lovable, use this image, and then give it the URL of the image you want to use in my hero or in my About Us section. And that always works. So Lovable, it has no trouble feeding in Unsplash URLs into your site. So that's what I mainly recommend. Another thing you could do is you could connect to Supabase if you haven't already and set up something called a storage bucket where you can basically upload all your image assets. And Lovable does a much better job referencing images in your storage bucket than it does on just like uploads to like the chat window. Okay. So I say, unless you really need like a really custom picture, you just use Unsplash URLs to upload images to your site. Lovable has no issue with that. So that's my 9th tip. Now 10. This is my probably favorite part of Lovable. I absolutely love number 10. If you've ever built websites before, I think, at least for me personally, the worst part of a website build is spending 3 to 4 weeks building a website. It's perfect. It's beautiful. You love it. And then realizing you haven't optimized the site for mobile at all. Like if you go pull out your phone, the website, it looks horrible. And you're like, oh, I'm going to spend the next week or 2 just optimizing this for mobile. I'm basically going to rebuild the site just for mobile, if you're using WordPress or Webflow, stuff like this. In Lovable, I'm not joking you. All you have to do is use one prompt. Hey, Lovable, optimize my site for mobile by improving the nav menu, adjusting spacing layouts, making touch targets larger, ensuring text stays readable, etc., etc. And Lovable is going to fully optimize your site for mobile in one prompt. It is the biggest time saver ever. I mean, I've made videos on this channel before on how to save hours of time optimizing for mobile on like Webflow. I've never seen anything like this. Lovable will optimize your site for mobile in one prompt. All you have to do is use a prompt something like this, and it will do it perfectly. All right, and then last but not least, my 11th thing that I wish I knew when I started building in Lovable is that putting the finishing touches on your app or your website is the easiest thing ever. Okay, and I'll give you a prompt here in just a second on like the best way to do this. But if you've ever used Webflow or WordPress, you know that one of the things you have to do at the end is like optimize your site for SEO. And that involves going around and like coming up with meta titles, meta descriptions, updating your open graph image, your favicon, all that good stuff. And it takes a long time. In Lovable, if you prompt this well enough, you could do this in 1 to 2 prompts, okay? So a prompt that I like to use when putting the finishing touches on my site is something like this. Now give each of my pages on my site an appropriate meta title and description to optimize my site for SEO. Also update my favicon and open graph image with the attached images. And then I'll attach like my logo and like a sharing image, okay? And what this does is essentially in one prompt, Lovable will give each of your pages a meta title and a meta description for SEO. And that way when you send your site around, it looks pretty, it looks good. It will then also update your sharing image, your open graph image, so that when you send your website to somebody, like when you send them the link, you get a nice picture that shows up, on your URL, like a nice thumbnail, which is just very professional. It'll also update your favicon, so like these little icons up here, it'll give you that, okay? And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The last thing you want to do is you want to turn off the Lovable tag. So if you go to project settings, you can like toggle off showing the Lovable tag on the bottom right of your app or your website. And at this point, with one prompt and a little refining, your site is now, it's ready to share. It's ready to go. It's optimized for SEO. You're going to rank up in Google. You're ready to go live. You're ready to actually share your project with people. And with Lovable, this takes just one prompt. So those are the 11 things that I wish I knew when I started building in Lovable. I'm sure I'm going to come up with a bunch more over the next few months as I continue to build more complex apps. But with those 11 tips and tricks, I'm telling you, you're going to be way further ahead than anybody else is in the Lovable game. So if you guys like this video, go down and smash that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing. That would be awesome. If you have any questions or comments, get down there and let me know about it. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for being along for the ride the last few weeks. It's great to be making videos again, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.